we don't know what the plan's going to be with dynamic calling plays, but we're going to get a chance to do more of that in March and April. Keep an eye on the season.
Yeah.
How much of that are you thinking about at this moment, scheming, planning for what that opportunity is going to be like?
Well, I mean, if you were to come in, out of the building, come into this role, everything will be on the table the same way as it is now. But to kind of corner ourselves into a spot and justify it one way or the other, we don't really want to do that. So everything's on the table. Look forward to the opportunity in the spring. I think just in general, though, I mean, in spring, the more opportunities we get the chance to play it as regular as possible for myself and young quarterbacks and everybody else, I think that serves everybody.
How comfortable would you feel to go and call a game right now?
Pretty comfortable, just because with the surrounding party I have. I mean, I think that Coach Dave has always done it at an elite level. We've always produced, from a production standpoint, offensively at an elite level. But the support staff I have around me really empowers me. So my confidence comes from having them, and so I'd be very confident.
Brian mentioned he challenged you a lot last year as passing game coordinator with picking up blocking schemes and all of that. How much did your year as a passing game coordinator help prepare you think for where you're at right now?
Yeah, I think it's all critical. I don't think it's not just carrying a title. I don't believe. I think it's probably more than that. But as you continue to build in any profession, more responsibilities and how you handle those responsibilities and how those fingers reach outside of the responsibilities you're technically supposed to have really just show probably your growth potential. So it's not just me, it's anybody. And I like to think I did a good job with that. But again, still a reset. Here's where I'm at now, and now where can I grow from here, and how can I help this team accomplish the goals we want to accomplish.
Have you been secretly sitting around keeping little schemes you're coming up with, et cetera? I mean, for that day when you become a coordinator, or you understand what I'm saying?
We have plenty of plays. Yeah. And we have plenty of minds.
That's what I was going to.
We don't. It's not like there's in my opinion, a secret sauce out there.
Yeah.
So I would say no.
Yeah, and so define what an offensive coordinator is from your vantage point, from your perspective. Is it collating everybody's ideas and putting them together? Is it coming up with something novel? I mean, how would you explain it, Brian?
It's definitely multifaceted. In a coach in general, I think you wear a lot of hats. You don't just, I think sometimes coaching receivers, I'm blessed with a great room, so. But I used to say coaching is like the last thing I do, so. But I would say being an offensive coordinator is, putting your fingerprint on things that you find more important than others. I mean, at the end of the day, you have an allocation of time, how you allocate that time. You have a list of plays and schemes, and what you find, an A play versus a B play and a C play, that becomes probably more your identity. That's probably your responsibility. I mean, I think that being able to enhance the people around you. My job as a receiver coach is to get the best out of the receivers. My job as offensive coordinator is to maximize each, guy in that room, each coach in that room, to what they're capable of. So that doesn't change, I think, in the grand scheme, but maybe the dynamics within the groups maybe are a little different.
But then helping to identify a starting quarterback. You guys have got a competition. You don't have a returning starter at quarterback and stuff. How much have you weighed that throughout your career about what makes this guy different from that guy? Why do I go with this guy?
I mean, I constantly assess players myself. I mean, I assess my 5-year-old son. I mean, I can't watch him play sports because I'm assessing him. So that's just what we do all the time. And I think, the biggest thing to remind yourself sometimes is new year, new identity. Some players are carryover, but there's new players. And every year you have a new identity. These players look for a new opportunity to reestablish themselves or to establish themselves. And giving them that opportunity, I think, is critical. I think sometimes the byproduct of past years gets stuck in your mind as a coach, which in America as a player, like, okay, hold on now. Like, this is my next year, new opportunity. Maybe some older guys are gone. My voice can be louder. So you got to make sure as a coach you provide that platform to where those players can enhance themselves as well.
But how important is it to identify when you have a brand new starting quarterback situation, to identify who that guy is sooner rather than later, or do you want to let it mature?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever a rush. I think that, I'll lean heavily on Coach Day with how that all goes down. And people have an opinion and have a voice, but that quarterback room is pretty well established over the last 4 or 5, 6 years and the standard in which they operate. Yeah. And Coach Day obviously is the reason for that, and Coach Dennis. So those guys will do a great job, do what they do, and I'm sure I'll just be a part of the conversation.
Are you noticing the dust start to settle with NIL? When you're out on the road, are you getting more comfortable with it? Is it still the Wild West?
Yeah, you're definitely getting more comfortable with it. I think that the dust still has not settled. I think the only way it settles is with time, and I think guys seeing the reality of what's happening and not happening, what's real and not real. That won't show until down the road, and so, but it's definitely more comfortable. It's here to stay, so it's not as new, but definitely interesting dynamic though.
Are you guys happy with where you are in terms of whether it's how it's coming in? And you always are going to want more. I get that.
Yeah, I mean that's the fine balance, right? You always want to have more, and that's just the reality of it. I mean, if you asked NFL teams if they wish the salary cap was higher, they would say, yeah, they wish it was higher. So, I would say that I'm really happy with where we're at. I think that, I'm proud of the way we've gone about it. I'm sure Coach Day could hit on it more. I don't want to speak, out of context there, but we definitely want to be sustainable. We definitely want to be, very thoughtful and thorough, and really, do right by the young men. And I think that we're doing that at a pretty good clip.
You hear all these stories. Have you been surprised by how much a kid wants to talk about it or what's expected? Did you see it? Maybe it isn't. Maybe the percentage of how high that is in the recruiting conversation isn't what we're hearing.
Well, I think it's a part of a variable. Like the variable, like anything, can change. So where those people, where the young athletes place that variable in the importance of their recruitment is on them. And we know it's important. We don't believe it's the most important. So all of that has to match up, and I think that's really important. I think that's part of maybe the emphasis in the athlete's mind or family's mind and all that, and it all plays a part, right? At the end of the day, there's a bunch of variables on the table. You're trying to assess the variables and determine that young man's odds of success based on the variables. That's the combine, that's recruiting, that's all that. So now it's another variable. How you handle that variable and how you place it is up to assessment.
So at that program, if you've got a super talented guy, but his number one thing is NIL, stay away.
I would say this. I would say that it's probably per position per coach. I would say as a receiver coach, probably not a guy that would fit in our room. So, however each coach handles it and how Coach Day wants to handle it, that's fine. But I'm okay with saying that's probably not the right fit for us in our room.
Brian, you're moving up to offensive coordinator is not just a promotion for you; it's also part of Ryan's concept of kind of restructuring things. Did you see here these last couple of years how much was kind of on his plate and how that would wear on him a little bit?
Yes, that's probably natural. I think the longer you're in it, the more that college football morphs. I mean, let's take a snap back to what college football was in 2015, and then where it is in 2020, 2023. I mean, it's vastly different. And I think that as he continues to be in the head coaching role, and there's more put on your plate, and there's more people, and there's more hands on you, and it just grows, right? And I think Ohio State demands that obviously at the highest level. So, I think that he feels that more than I would ever, and he's just trying to do right by what he thinks would be best to help maximize the team. And he spoke about it a little bit, but this day is coming.
I talked in the past about maybe you didn't take the most linear route to get to here, but when you were in college, when you were in the NFL, were you paying attention to offensive coordinators in such a way that maybe that's I'm going to do that, somebody trying to glean things from?
Nope.
Ryan said that you would be more involved now in recruiting the whole offense.
Yep.
Is that something you're excited about? Is that something that's a challenge because you are a receiver and you know receiver brains? Or?
No, I think it's exciting. I like being able to reach out to those guys. I think that I lean heavily on the guys. It helps steer me. I don't want to make sure that, again, I think my job as a coordinator is to help facilitate the position coaches to go after the guys they want, not to go get the guys, but to help facilitate. And just like Coach Day helps facilitate with the receivers, but it's still my responsibility. That's how I feel. So I lean heavily on the position coaches to help guide me on where they want it and where they want me and where they don't. I mean, that's really important. But the opportunity to meet more young men and make an imprint on them and hopefully get them here, and that can build. I mean, the biggest part I've told you, Berm, before is through recruiting. I feel like the relationship part can be built, because if there's no relationship, there's no coaching. You can only coach a guy as hard as the relationship allows. And I like to try to hedge my bets, not hedge my bets, but speed that process up through recruiting. So when they get here, they already know hard calls, it's for a reason. And not being like, oh, hey, I'm Coach Howard, nice to meet you. And it takes 6 months to build that relationship. It's really hard to coach in that first 6 months then, versus when they step on campus. So, just like the receivers, I would feel the same way about the other positions.
To that point, in this cycle, it's kind of more focus will be different than it's ever been before. Is it more important for you in 24 and 25 to get those relationships like right now, where you don't have a lot of the other stuff around the game in summer?
I don't think so. I don't mean to be dismissive, but I feel like there's plenty of time in a day to get it done. I just got to be more, make sure I stay organized and I don't waste time. But there's plenty of time to get it done.
If you're going to experiment with new play calls in the spring, is it advantageous to do so when you're also identifying a new quarterback as opposed to a guy who's been in the system for 2 years since he's ran? Is there any?
I don't feel any type of way towards that. I don't think. These guys have been in the offense. They know the offense. They're going to continue to build trust, and I'm not worried about them side. It's just making sure they feel how I operate.
Brian, does it help you make that transition to coordinator when you know you have 3 returning starters at receiver?
I think having the building full of players that we have, regardless of returning starter or not, provides a great opportunity for anybody to call plays at Ohio State. So, for me, regardless of returning or not, excited for it.
So you've accumulated a lot of talent in that receiver room. Kind of what's maybe your message to those guys who aren't the returning starters on how they can earn playing time this year?
I think right now in the off-season program, the biggest thing is, and I'll just share it with you, is that I said right now you should be trying to impress your peers. Impress your peers. Your peers know. Players know. By trying to impress your peers, that means everything, right? Being on time, if not early, how you work, how you communicate, if you're up front, you're not in front, all those things matter. And I think by doing that, you'll probably in turn impress Coach Mick, because Coach Mick knows what it looks like. He runs the program. He's really the facilitator of all culture at Ohio State. And if you can impress him, you're on the right track. I've never seen a guy impress Coach Mick and not be on the field. So do that, and then obviously the coaches. So if you keep your mindset on, again, impress your peers, because those peers are hard to impress. That'll byproduct to probably impress Coach Mick, and then the coaches will be impressed. The rest take care of themselves. So that's the focus, I would say, through the off-season months.
I've seen you respond to a few people on social media about Jackson Smith-Njigba's draft projections. Just what's your message to NFL teams about why you should draft Jackson?
What are some of the most important things you think you've learned from Ryan about calling a game, offensive play calling, being around him for the last few years?
It's not going to be perfect. I think that, relying on those around you for recommendations, implementing those recommendations, being okay to agree with some but not agree with some, that's okay. Again, I've been on the headset with him for 5-6 years. So there's been a lot to learn from. His calm, I think, has been really good. I think the conversations at halftime and how those go kind of resonate with me big time. So there's lots of things. To nail it down just to one, would be hard to do. But again, given that opportunity, he's still going to be on the headset with me. So it's not like I have to write him down and take it with me. He's going to be right there. So, like I said, given the opportunity, a lot of confidence because of the guys around me.
How much was Kevin a part of that, and how not weird or odd, but comfortable, uncomfortable not having him there? I don't know.
That's probably,
Security blanket, was he? Or
yeah. No, I mean, Kev was full of knowledge. He would, communicate, keep Coach Day calm. I think he was a good sounding board. Again, it's not just me, it's the dynamics of all of us. Justin was used to Coach Wilson being there and having Coach Bailey and having Tony, and so all of us played our own parts. So that dynamic will change, and like true pros, we'll handle that dynamic change.
have you moved away the farther from the league, playing in the league? I'm just curious if your tenor, if your tone, if your experience has changed, like talking to guys about the NFL compared to today. I mean, it hasn't changed a whole lot.
Okay. I mean, I think I don't rely on that. I think the guys kind of like hearing about it a little bit, but they're not learning from their peers. Now we're getting guys in the spot where just call Chris and Garrett. You don't need me. So call Terry McLaurin. Call Paris Campbell. So that building of proof in the pudding, as you will, really provides them a great lifeline.
I brought you back to coaching. I think I did a thing on you years ago, convenience store drive.
It was just, my brother was here, and I kind of got in the building, and then I happened to stay in the building. That's really what it was. There wasn't a plan to coach. It kind of happened. They didn't have much going on in spring of 2017, and I was living in town, and then I just never left.
Do you still have that place?
We just sold them all, actually.
Did?
Like last year.
Did you all right?
Yeah.
Brian,
last question is
Coach Day. Coach Day was just talking about having guys who played here, guys who are familiar with this program on staff. Bring in a guy like James. I'm just curious from your perspective how being a guy who is so familiar with the program maybe is different in everything you do as an assistant coach at that program.
Well, I don't know. I think that'd be a good question for the players, because at the end of the day, those are the people we want to impact. I guess speaking from my perspective, it seems to be that, when I do talk or I do communicate about the university, it probably comes off a little different than just a guy that's been hired by somebody. And again, it's not a knock on Ohio State. It's just, you go across the country, and that happens everywhere. How many guys are former players coaching their position at their school? It's probably pretty few. So the conversation probably just sounds different, which resonates different with the person listening. You can definitely, reach back in and talk about past experiences and talk about what it means to us. And I think there's times of the year where that hits. Maybe there's a different passion that comes out of it that the guys feel, maybe. But again, it's hard for me to say versus a player answering that question.
Can I follow up on that? How much of your philosophy, knowledge, anything else that goes into coaching could you maybe trace back to your playing days?
Oh, a lot. I mean, everything, not necessarily the coaches, but just as a player, that's all I base a lot of, like, how I feel, how I react, how I coach, how I hold guys accountable is based off of, when I was a player and what I would have wanted done. And just like, I know when I was full of crap, and, that's it. So I almost all of it.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Good.
Good, yeah.